always believed that a home stays peaceful as long as the women inside it pour love into the walls. I tried my whole life to be that kind of woman. I raised 2 boys with my own hands, working long shifts at the diner, learning to mend clothes by hand, learning to stretch a dollar until it begged for mercy. I was not fancy, I was not perfect, but I gave those boys every ounce of strength and tenderness I had. When my oldest son Mark married Hannah, I opened my arms as wide as I could. I told myself this young woman would be like another daughter to me. I prayed we would build a gentle bond, one that grew slowly like roses in spring. For the first year things stayed smooth. We saw each other on holidays, shared simple meals, and exchanged polite small talk. She smiled, but it never reached her eyes. I never pushed. I respected her space. I respected their new life, but over time her politeness started to feel thin like paper that tears if you breathe too hard. The real strain began the day they moved back to our town. They had lived in Atlanta for 3 years, but when rent rose high and her job shifted, they came back home. I thought this would bring us closer. A mother always hopes. On a warm Sunday afternoon, we all sat around my dining table. I had cooked a full meal: roast chicken, garlic potatoes, green beans, and a peach cobbler fresh from the oven. The sun glowed through the curtains, touching everything with warm light. Mark looked relaxed and happy. Hannah looked stiff, like she had stepped into a room she did not want to be in. She barely spoke during dinner. She pushed her food around her plate like each bite was a task. I tried to lighten the mood by asking about her new job at the clinic. She gave short answers. Finally, Mark excused himself for a phone call, leaving the 2 of us alone at the table. That was when the room shifted. That was when the warmth in her face faded into something sharper, colder. She set her fork down, looked straight at me, and said the words that cut deeper than any blade could. "You are not even half the woman my mother is." For a second the whole world went still. The clock on the wall kept ticking, but I did not hear it. My heart thumped once heavy and deep, not out of anger, but out of deep, sudden ache. I had spent my whole life trying to be a good woman, a good mother, a good human being. I never claimed to be better than anyone. I never asked to be compared. I pushed my chair back, slow, steady, almost gentle, because anger was rising, but I would not let it control me. A woman can feel pain without letting it twist her spirit. I stood up and placed my hands on the back of the chair to steady myself. The room was quiet, except for the soft sound of Hannah breathing, sharp and impatient. I asked softly, "What made you say that?" Hannah, she crossed her arms and leaned back like she wanted the chair to hold her arrogance. "Because it is the truth," she said. "My mother is organized, stylish, confident. She knows how to host guests, how to decorate, how to keep everything perfect. She does not serve old-fashioned food or wear cheap clothes. She does not cling to her son or make him feel guilty for having a life. She is modern. She belongs to his world. You do not." Her words dripped with disdain, each one hitting my chest like a small stone. I took a long, quiet breath, letting the hurt settle into something I could carry without breaking. I answered in a soft, even voice, "Hannah, I never tried to compete with your mother. I only tried to care for my son and welcome you into our family." She scoffed. "Well, maybe stop trying, because when you try, it only makes things uncomfortable for us." Her tone was sharp enough to slice through bone. I felt my heartbeat shift, not fast, not wild, just steady and sad. A deep ache you feel when someone you opened your heart to decides your heart is not good enough. I stepped toward the window, letting the sunlight warm my back. Sunlight has a way of reminding us that no matter how heavy our sorrow, the world still holds brightness. I spoke slowly so my voice would not shake. "Hannah, I know you do not owe me admiration or praise, but you do owe me respect in my own home." She raised her chin. "Respect is earned." I turned to her. "Then let me tell you a story." Her eyes rolled, but I continued. When Mark was 8 years old, we barely had enough money to keep the heat on. I worked double shifts, sometimes triple. I stitched his jackets by hand when they tore because buying new ones was not an option. I sold my wedding ring once to pay for his school trip because I knew he wanted to go more than anything. I bought it back 2 years later after saving every stray dollar I could. When he got sick, I rocked him through every fever every long night. I gave him everything I had every day, not because I wanted him to praise me, but because that is what a mother does. Her face softened for just a moment before tightening again. "That is your job," she said coldly. "It does not make you special." I nodded slowly. "Maybe not, but it does make me a woman of love, and no one needs to be special to deserve kindness." She looked away for a second, as if unsure how to respond. I stepped closer but kept my voice calm. "I do not have fancy clothes or a big education or a perfect life. I grew up poor. I learned everything by trial and error. I make mistakes, but I love deeply. That is the kind of woman I am." Then I said the part that had been sitting heavy on my heart. "And maybe you do not see value in that. Maybe in your eyes it is not enough. But I will never let you speak to me in my home like I am less than anyone." The air grew tight around us. Just then Mark walked back in. He froze seeing our faces. "What is going on?" he asked. Before I could speak, Hannah jumped in. "Nothing, we were just talking." Her voice was sweet, but her eyes held warning. I could have stayed quiet. I could have swallowed the hurt like older women often do because keeping peace is easier than confrontation. But I knew silence would only plant deeper roots of disrespect. So I looked at my son and spoke evenly. "Your wife told me I am not even half the woman her mother is. She said I make things uncomfortable for both of you." Mark's face drained of color. He turned slowly toward her. "Hannah, did you really say that?" Her jaw clenched. "Well, she is always interfering, always acting like she raised you all by herself, and she is not like my mother." Mark took a step back like her words stung him too. "Hannah, you have no idea what my mother did for us. You have no idea what she carried to make sure we had a chance at a better life. My mom has done more with so little than most people do with everything." "Do not ever speak to her that way again." Hannah's eyes widened. She had not expected him to defend me. She turned her head away, embarrassed, angry, or both. I touched Mark's arm gently. "Son, do not fight over me." That is not why I spoke, but he shook his head. "Mom, some things need to be said." The room felt tight, heavy, full of emotions swirling around us like a storm trying to find a place to settle. Hannah stepped away from the table, her breath shaking. "Fine," she said. "If my presence bothers your mother so much, maybe we should limit our visits. Maybe we should keep our distance." Her voice trembled, but it was not sorrow. It was pride wounded and flaring. I walked to her, slow, steady, careful, like approaching a frightened animal that bites out of confusion, not cruelty. In a low, gentle tone, I said, "Hannah, I do not want distance. I want respect. We can build a bond. But both sides have to want that." She blinked away tears, but her pride kept her from letting them fall. She whispered, "I am not used to women like you." I smiled sadly, "And I am not used to women like you. But we can learn from one another." There was silence, heavy but softer than before. Mark reached for her hand. "Hannah, Mom is not perfect. Neither are you, neither am I. But we are family. Let us start fresh." "Please." She looked at me again. This time there was less steel in her eyes, more confusion, more vulnerability. I could see the young girl inside her, who was scared to be compared, scared to fall short, scared to be less than what she wanted to be. She whispered, "I am sorry if I hurt you." I nodded. "You did, but I forgive you, not because I am weak, because I know the cost of carrying bitterness. I cannot carry that weight." Her shoulders loosened as if something in her cracked open. I touched her arm lightly. "You do not have to see me like your mother. I just hope one day you see me as a woman who tried." She breathed out slow and shaky. "I think I can try." The air finally settled. The storm began to ease. I walked back to the table and sliced the peach cobbler for everyone. The whole room smelled sweet and warm again. Hannah took a small bite, then another, then looked at me and said softly, "This tastes like comfort." I smiled. That is all I ever wanted to give, and in that quiet moment right there in my little dining room, we took the first step towards something new, not perfect, not smooth, but real. Sometimes family is not built from harmony. Sometimes it is built from truth and apology and courage to keep trying even when your heart has been bruised. And that day, sitting around a table that had witnessed both hurt and healing, I realized something important. A woman does not need to be compared to anyone. A woman only needs to stand in her truth with love in her heart and strength in her spine, and that makes her whole.